My partner and I have been together for nearly 6 years. He has honestly been the most amazing, wonderful, and supportive person in my life. He doesn't just make me happier, he makes me healthier. He's been absolutely fantastic in every way imaginable. About 2 years ago, we had the big marriage talk. We were both honest about what we wanted. He admitted that getting married made him so nervous. He has literally never seen a successful marriage. Every marriage he's ever witnessed has either ended in disastrous divorce or very sad premature death. I said I would stay with him whatever he chose, but there are some things I wouldn't do unless we were married. Just as he's seen too many marriages fail, I've seen too many loved ones be abandoned by men once the kids come along or when he finds a better option. In other words, as long as we weren't married, no kids, and our finances remained strictly untangled from each other. He proposed to me a few months after that, and since then, he's turned into an absolute nightmare. First, he refuses to do anything wedding-related, but accuses me of taking over and being a bridezilla when I make decisions without him. He does things behind my back, like inviting our friend who has 4 kids to bring the children, when we agreed the only exception to the no kids rule would be my niece, who will be 3 months old, and for obvious reasons can't be separated from my sister for the weekend. I can swallow that frustration, but he's also become hypercritical. Any mess around the house, even if he made it, if I haven't cleaned it up by the time he gets home, he refuses to talk to me. I work from home, so I usually do a lot of the chores like the dishwasher in my lunch break, but sometimes I don't have time. This is a busy time of year. And while my job is usually constrained to the 9-5, in the last few weeks, I've had to work until 8 or 9 when he stormed in last night, angry that he had to clean the kitchen, and I pointed out I'd been working for 12 hours straight. He looked me in the eyes and said, "So?" He's threatened to throw me out the house and call off the engagement 4 times. He's stopped initiating intimacy. I've come to dread the sound of the door unlocking because he can't go 5 minutes without finding a problem to have with me. It's so bad that my mother, who was ready to adopt him a year ago, is refusing to be the witness that signs our marriage certificate. I've asked to call off the wedding, go back to being just girlfriend and boyfriend, but he says he really does want to get married, and he's just doing all of this to make sure he's making the right choice. Increasingly, though, all he's done is convince me I'm making the wrong one. Edit to add, if it wasn't clear, I'd already decided not to marry him when I made this post. I'm packing up and going to my mom's for now. I'm safe and don't need anyone to call the cops. Thanks to the person who offered, though. Now for a few important comments. A commenter said, "He's hurtful. He was always going to be hurtful once he felt he'd locked you down. This is who he is. You can't stay with him BC of who he used to be, because he isn't that person anymore. He will likely never be that person again." OP replied, "It's really hard to believe he was trying to lock me down. If anything, I had to kind of convince him to propose. But yeah, I'm not planning to marry this man anymore." When OP was told not to convince someone to marry them if they don't want to, they said, when we discussed, I told him I would be perfectly happy not getting married if he didn't want to. I knew he feels generally disillusioned with marriage. I just simply wasn't willing to commit to something like kids or a mortgage if he couldn't honestly say he was planning on staying with me for the rest of our lives. Nothing would have happened if he hadn't asked me. When asked if he agreed to marry only for financial reasons, OP said, "I don't think so. I have thought a lot about that. At the time he proposed, we knew his grandma was going to pass away soon. We were renting the house next door to her, and while we knew he'd inherit the house we were living in, the 2 houses had slowly merged gardens in the 10 years he and his grandma had been living next to each other. The 2 houses have been in the family since the 30s, so he was quite keen on buying next door to both avoid losing it. The family member who inherited it couldn't afford to keep it, but also because having a stranger live there would have been a huge privacy issue for both houses. We'd hoped to rent it to a friend or another family member. He does earn a lot more than me, but he's self-employed, so the banks are quite wary of loaning to him. I work in a university which the banks consider a safe professional job, so getting credit and loans would have been much easier if he'd been married to me. Thinking back on it, I wonder if he asked me not because it was something he wanted per se, but just something that made sense. We'd been together for a while, so it made sense to keep moving forward. It made financial sense, and his family liked me. I'm not a perfect partner or person, but weighing it all up, marrying me had lots of factual advantages for him. I even have dual American citizenship, and he'd always dreamed of moving to America one day. Now for the 2-week update. Sorry for the wait, folks. I've had a lot to do. This has honestly been one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I'm back in with my parents, which is awful. I hate it. I feel like a teenager again. They're being very supportive, and I'm grateful I had somewhere to go, but the house is so damn loud, and I forgot what it was like. I'm trying to find an affordable apartment, but it's London, so that feels like a bit of a pipe dream. To top it all off, canceling a wedding a month before is expensive. Only the celebrant and the photographer have accepted refunds. Every other vendor has been paid in full, and that's money just flushed down the toilet. It's been exhausting. Before this, I was in a pretty great financial situation. I had savings and a plan and a house and a financially stable partner. Now, I have less than 1/10 of my savings, nowhere to live, and no real prospect for the future. It's not easy processing losing him. Not easy at all. I'm still in the part where everything makes me cry, and you feel like someone has taken scissors to your soul, but I've experienced both grief and breakups. I know this feeling will eventually fade, even if it might never completely disappear. When it's mixed in with the relief of being able to exist without criticism every 5 minutes, I'm hopeful it will pass sooner rather than later. But I have no experience for this kind of existential fear of being alone, not having the family I've wanted for so long, not knowing what's next, actually trying to date someone. When I was little, I never knew what I wanted from my career, other than that I had one, but I always knew I wanted to be a mom. That dream feels like it's getting further and further away every day. I have no experience for this burning embarrassment of telling everyone in your life that the wedding they were invited to isn't happening. It was so painful telling his niece and nephew I wasn't going to be seeing them again. They cried and clung to me and begged me not to go, and they ripped my heart out. It's easy on Reddit to tell someone to end things, but when you've built a life together, disentangling it is so bloody difficult. A divorce would be easier because then we'd have a legal framework for all of this. Instead, I have to decide if I want to take him to court for the custody of my cat when I don't have a proper place to house her, but she's my cat. You might have noticed I've avoided really talking about my ex. We're communicating through our parents. He tried to reach out several times, but if I talk to him, I know I will do what I always do. I will buckle and take him back because I love him very, very much. I've been in therapy, again, courtesy of my parents, and my therapist has to keep reminding me to love myself more than I love him. I miss him anyway. He's promised to change, promised couples counseling, promised he knows he was wrong. But he also hasn't said the word sorry yet. Such a small word, and yet so telling. He's been generally pretty accommodating to me. Expenses have been split 50-50, which is fair, but certainly a worse deal for me. He left the house so I could gather my things in peace. I can tell from the state of it, this has hit him hard. The cats have been the only sticking point, and I understand why. The house is old and creaks. Being there alone isn't fun. Neither of us liked it when we were alone, and a large part of the reason we got cats was for the company at night when the other was away. I'm sorry if this wasn't the update you wanted to hear. My mind is all over the place. Am I the idiot for cutting off my creepy friend after he harassed my daughter? The last few months, I've been chatting to a friend more regularly than previous. We've been friends for over a decade, and we used to be really close, but we slowly drifted apart. I should probably mention we are both men in our 40s. It's been great catching up with him, and honestly, I really needed a friend, so it's just been great. He's got a long-term girlfriend and 2 young children. A couple of months ago, we visited his house for the first time. He recently moved and we weren't speaking much before that, just an occasional comment on Facebook. And me, my 14-year-old son and 20-year-old daughter, spent a few hours, honestly, just chatting about nothing, but in a good way, you know? While we were there, I noticed that he kept looking at my daughter out of the corner of his eye. I never really caught him fully looking, so I thought nothing of it, especially as he has known my kids for over a decade. I didn't mention it to my daughter, as I didn't want to make her feel uncomfortable if it was nothing. A couple of months went past and we visited them again. He kept talking to my daughter and not really to me, which is fine, but it just seemed odd when my daughter has really bad anxiety and she can't really hold a conversation, and she makes it clear when she's uncomfortable talking. He just seemed to keep looking at her and talking. Even if he was talking to me, he would just look at her. The final straw was last week. We visited them, and we've been having a heat wave, so we were all dressed in as minimal as possible. My daughter in a thin pair of skirts and a t-shirt, my son in a pair of athletic shorts and a gym top, and me in a polo shirt and white chino shorts. Nothing unusual, just basic summer wear. When we were in conversation, he would look at my daughter. When anyone told a joke, he would smirk a little or give a small laugh, depending. But if my daughter told something mildly funny, he would really laugh, to the point that even she would look awkward. He kept dropping out of conversation and just staring at her. I think she noticed it as well, because she started to lean back in her chair to try to cover herself, even though she was fine. She looked uncomfortable. Then when the sun set, she put on a thick jacket and zipped it up. I don't know if he's just trying to be friendly and he doesn't know how to act, or if he's only inviting us round to stare at her, and if so, then I don't know what to do. Yes, she's 20, but she's still my little girl, and this man watched her grow up. It just seems strange. I don't know if I should say something or just don't go around there again. Either way, I think it's the end of the friendship, which is a shame, but oh well. Now for the 2-day update. Update from my last post. I spoke to my daughter about the whole thing and wanted to know what she thought about it all, because I didn't want to say anything if she didn't think it was odd. She told me that after the first time we saw him again, a few months ago, he had appeared outside her work after she finished her shift and asked if she wanted a lift home instead of getting the bus. She said that since he was a good friend of mine, she trusted him and got in his car. On the ride home, he repeatedly touched her leg and started talking about how much she's changed since he saw her last, before we all met up, and how much of an adult she looks now. He told her she's growing into her body like a good girl. My daughter said that she would walk the rest of the way home because she didn't want to put him out too much, but he insisted on driving her all the way. She said she kept moving away from him, but he was leaning to touch her knees. She said that at a red light, not long before the house, he gave her his mobile number and texted himself from her phone and told her to call him if she wanted a lift or anything else. Then when she got home, she went to leave the car, but he grabbed her arm and asked her where his hug and kiss goodbye was. Not a new thing. He gives us all a hug every time, and when she leaned in, he held her tight and whispered that she should call him. In the last few months since then, he has repeatedly been sending her explicit texts and images and waiting outside her work asking her if she would like a lift home, even though every time she said no. She said she didn't want to say anything because she didn't want to upset me, as he was the only friend I had. I feel sick thinking about this. This is my daughter. She's 20, but she's still my little girl, and I feel like I've put her in danger. I've messaged him asking him to stop contacting my family, and I've sent him the screenshots from her phone as reasons why, but he is messaging me asking me why when she is an adult, and the only sleazy thing he's done is cheat on his girlfriend, as my daughter never physically said the words, "Stop." She just ignored him. I'm so angry at him and myself. We went and spoke to our local police, and they couldn't really help us, as she had willingly gotten into his car. They did say that as we have spoken to him already, they could keep a file open, and if it continues, then they would be able to take action. Honestly, it seems that they don't really care about it at all, which is alarming and upsetting. We sent the screenshots and an explanation to his girlfriend, and we've had some missed calls from him, but that's not our problem. We've blocked him on everything and have completely removed him from every social media. My daughter has spoken to her work, and they have said that until she is able to find another job, they will ensure that at least one other member of staff will wait with her for the bus. And I will be meeting her at the first stop in our town to take her directly home on days I'm not working and on days I am. Then her grandparents will be picking her up. She is safe. I also had a lot of comments suggesting I get violent with this man. Although I do appreciate that a lot of people would be choosing the other route of resolving the problem face to face, I'm not like that. I'd like to be. I'd like to say that there's no problem I couldn't solve that way. But that's simply not me. It doesn't make me a bad dad either. I found another way to solve the problem and make sure my daughter is safe and comfortable. Thank you all for your help and advice. It's nice to find some support through the internet sometimes. Now for a few important comments. Commenter, it's not your fault, but you need to have a sit down and talk through the socialization for women to be nice and how to get past that mental block. This is something a lot of us go through, and it puts us in really awful situations. Help her understand that her safety is the most important thing. She doesn't have to be nice or put up with things like this. There's probably some very eloquent people who can speak to this topic on YouTube, but I want to make sure she knows she doesn't have to take this for the rest of her life, even with the anxiety and desire not to rock any boats. Then OP replied, I've told her many times growing up that if she doesn't feel comfortable doing something, no matter what it is, then she needs to say that. It doesn't matter if it upsets someone or offends someone. All that matters is that she is safe and comfortable. I'm hoping that she will be like this from now on, and I just hope that she knows I'm here for her no matter what. Thank you for your comment. Another commenter suggested getting her a weapon. OP responded, we're in the UK, so she's legally not allowed any weapons, including pepper spray. The only thing she is allowed is an alarm, which she already had anyway. We are looking into some objects which can be carried around legally or discreetly. Currently, we are looking into a key ring, which is like a long, sharpened stick, though there's not many places willing to ship them to us. I'm so very sorry to hear what you have been through, and I wish you well throughout your life. Am I the idiot for dumping my girlfriend after she hired a private investigator to spy on me? Hi, Reddit. So, I am a pro athlete. I won't say which sport exactly for anonymity, but it's one where you can play singles and doubles. I met my girlfriend 2.5 years ago and we had a wonderful relationship. I also made it very clear from the beginning that I would often have to be away traveling around the country and occasionally internationally to compete in tournaments. And she accepted this and has never had a problem with it until the coaches paired me with this girl, who I'll call Lucy, who I'll admit I have become good friends with. But that's it. She isn't my type. Lucy is very conventionally attractive, and most guys, 100%, not me, would find her more attractive than my girlfriend. I think some of her gossipy friends have got into her head telling her she shouldn't trust me going to hotels with this attractive girl without her there. My girlfriend is always welcome to come along to spectate, but usually can't because of work. She then started reading into things that aren't there, like not being happy that me and Lucy hugged each other after winning a tournament together recently. Like what? And apparently looking too close on the team's social media, even though those pictures are designed to make the team look tight-knit. She is asking all sorts of unreasonable things, like asking me to stay in a separate hotel to Lucy. The coaches book the hotels, and the whole team stays in the same one. It would look so strange if I asked not to be with them. My girlfriend was not happy with this explanation. She is now demanding that I asked for a different doubles partner, which I refuse to do. Firstly, because doing so to me would be like admitting there's something going on when there isn't. And secondly, I am not messing with my chances of success and winning titles because she can't get over her insecurities. During a recent conversation, I admitted to my girlfriend that soon in the run-up to the Olympics, I will probably be spending more time training with Lucy than ever before. And she absolutely blew up, saying she loves me, but can't deny what's going on right in front of her eyes, and she can't do this anymore. I screamed, "There is nothing going on," and she stormed out and says she is going to her parents for a few days. And that's where we are at the moment. My goodness, I love this girl so much, and I just want her to trust me. Damn it, I have never given her a reason not to. Any advice on how to convince her to trust me? Please don't say ditch Lucy as a doubles partner, because I ain't doing that. Now for a few important comments. Commenter, what Olympic sports have specific mixed doubles events for people who only play mixed doubles? I know tennis has mixed doubles, but the pairings are made from the people who have already qualified as individuals or non-mixed doubles. I don't think you're doing anything wrong, so this isn't a suggestion, just a question. Why do you specifically play mixed doubles instead of singles or non-mixed doubles? I play all three. There's no rule against competing in all of them. Mixed doubles is just the most successful for me at the moment. Another commenter, you have a strong emotional connection with another female. Your relationship isn't just like coworkers. You guys are partners in a sport. Can you really blame her for not liking it? She didn't start a relationship with you and expected you to have such a strong bond with another female. And the more time you guys spend together, the stronger that bond is going to become. I understand it's because of your career, but who would want a partner that has a strong connection with another person of opposite intimacy, making a career together? They would prefer if their partner didn't have that. You make a good point, but she knew what she was signing up for at the beginning. I made it perfectly clear what dating an athlete in this sport would be like, including that it would mean training and potentially partnering up with women who are very physically fit. She was always okay with this until Lucy. Now for the 7-week update. I don't know if anyone really wanted an update, but things got pretty crazy. After my girlfriend stormed off to her parents, we spoke again over the phone, and she still didn't believe me, and I was tired of it, so we agreed to end things. She came and collected her stuff a couple of days later, and I thought that would be the end. Then 3 weeks passed, and she suddenly comes to my place at night, telling me what a fool she had been and claiming she had come to her senses and knows I wasn't cheating. I was pretty happy to hear that, and we had some pretty great makeup intimacy, and it seemed problem solved. Then, for like a week and a half, I started to get very suspicious of this sudden change of heart. How she went from being 100% sure I was having an affair to 100% sure I am not like the flick of a switch. Her behavior was also off, like she was trying too hard to make it up to me. She was never asking me to do any chores like she completely fairly did before. I was coming home to a girlfriend who had my favorite meal made on the table and dressed up sexy for me, which was out of character. I then confronted her, demanding to know why the sudden change. She denied it at first, but then admitted that she hired a PI in those 3 weeks she was gone to get proof of me and Lucy having an affair to prove she was right. When in fact, he did the opposite when he told her after his weeks of watching that we definitely weren't having an affair. This was a big breach of trust and of my private life, so I told her we are over permanently this time. She actually accepted this quite calmly, seeming pretty resigned to it. We then parted amicably. She packed and left again, but I did speak to her yesterday, where she seemed in okay spirits, enjoying Christmas with her family, and she told me she is getting therapy in the new year to work on her issues and paranoia. And for me, well, I am all good. I thought I would be really broken up about it, but I actually feel quite happy and free. Just enjoying Christmas and looking forward to trying to get into the Olympics without all the drama. Oh, and to those who thought Lucy might have been into me, she has not made any moves on me since the breakup at all, and there have been no changes in our dynamic. Thanks all who commented.